And so we all have wounds, and that's a normal part of the human experience. So if we can normalize that suffering and normalize getting help and support for that suffering, it's not a weakness. It is one of the biggest strengths that I find that human beings have.
Because you are a person on this earth, it matters. It matters that you're suffering. It matters that you're struggling. It matters that your life isn't the way you want it to be, even if you're not suffering and struggling. If your life is not where you want it to be, that matters. Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia. Today we are going to get into an episode that I have been waiting for probably a month now, Geeking out on this one. So if you've clicked on this episode to some degree or another, you're curious about what we have to say in here. And more importantly, you're curious about what you can take away from this episode. By the end of this episode, my goal is to help us all get a greater understanding of the impact that therapy can have, most specifically consistent therapy. And so Bianca, it was a month and a half ago, 2 months now, maybe even, when you suggested this documentary for me to watch.
It's like 6 months ago.
Okay, solid.
If not longer.
So Bianca suggested this episode, and you said something along the lines of, or not this episode, but the documentary Simone Biles Rising. And for anyone that hasn't watched it yet, I'm highly suggesting that you do. Because talk about inspiration, holy hell. This girl's on another level. So anyone that doesn't know Simone Biles, she born in 1997, American artistic gymnast, and she holds 11 Olympic medals and 30 world champion medals, making her the most decorated gymnast in history. Holy crap.
Isn't she one of the most decorated, like, Olympic athletes in history too? She's like right up there with what's his name, the swimmer, Michael Phelps.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, she's also referred to as the GOAT, greatest of all time, and with 11 Olympic athletes, she's tied,
and 3 routines named after her. 3 stunts.
Yep, insane. She's the second most decorated female Olympic gymnast in the US. So with her accolades that we could continue to list, it is just insane. And if you watch that documentary, it really does show, from my perspective, a beautiful job at just the grit, just the perseverance, and ultimately also made wonderful glimmers into the behind the scenes of an athlete at that level. And I get super excited when I watch things like that, because I'm behind the scenes kind of psychoing my way through 1,000 plus, not never with an end and stop, my way through my own fitness regimen. And it's always me versus me. And there's really no like world medal that I'm after per se. But that sicko part of me that's always been an athletic whack job, for lack of better words, who is obsessed with her craft, went off and felt like super connected to this and so thank you, number one, for the recommendation to watch it. And afterwards we geeked out on WhatsApp of like, holy hell, this is amazing, and I cannot wait to have an episode around this. So one of the things that really struck me that I want to have a dialogue around in this episode is how powerful we all love watching athletes. The Olympics, it comes around every 4 years, and it's just like this insane tribute to the inherent athleticism that countries all over the world, they train, they're regimented, they have such incredible disciplinary skills. They literally wrap their entire life and their decisions around this one moment usually. But not Simone Biles. Simone Biles did it again and again and again. And she even was one of the first female athletes that said, you know what? I am right here ready to win a medal. And actually, I don't feel like something's right here. And she walked off the mat during, Tokyo Olympics in 2023, I believe. No, it was 2021. And she walked off stage. She walked off the mat, and long story short, it was like a big thing. It was a big thing for an athlete to say, you know what? My head's not in the game. My mental health is not doing well. Like this doesn't feel right for me. So someone who's worked her entire life to get to that stage, right? She got a ton of backlash for leaving at the Tokyo Games.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And when I say a ton, it was people were hating, people were shaming, people were like all over her social media, just totally crapping on her. 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, forgive me. And, you know, it's easy in a documentary like that. It showcases how people who can sit on the couch and watch athletic performers like that have a say in the matter and or have an opinion is just bewildering. But that's not what this episode is about. It's about how after she peeled away and honored her body, honored her mental health state, honored what she felt holistically, not just the mental regime of get after it, go, like cognitive level of Olympic level. It was everything in my health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, social health, right? Because in the 2020 Olympics, that was during COVID, right? She didn't have her family show up. It was a whole thing. So something was off and she trusted that. She trusted her internal whisper and she walked away from the maths. So after that, right, all the backlash came in and then she went again and back to the Olympics. And she went and she crushed it in 2024 at Paris Olympics and just went back in when no other athlete has had that level of dedication to the sport. And there's one moment in the documentary where she was headed towards her 2024 routine in Paris and she said something along the lines that just struck me so powerfully and it resonated, and it was the inspiration for this episode of how the sheer brutality and pain and the suffering, and not to mention even the sexual abuse that she had experienced, and insert all of the things that are there, she wouldn't have been able to make the level of Olympic decorative nature that she has now if it weren't for her therapy. And there was a scene that was so beautiful, B. I wonder if you remember it, where she was on the mat and she was going through her routines, and she was shared in the documentary talking about how, like, at one point her therapist had asked her, like, what color makes you powerful? Okay, warm up with that color. Think of that color. Something as small as like red, right? That was her power color. And so everything from her backpacks to the leotards and everything like that. They call them Leos, right? The stuff that she did, the visualizations, the therapeutic interventions that she had behind the scenes on her weekly therapy calls, that is what got her to crush when all of her thoughts, when all of her other parts came in and said, I don't know if we can do this, and started like doubting herself in real time. And it just like shook me to the core, because if someone who is that decorated like at a multiple Olympic level can give a credit like that to, I would not be here and I would not have been as decorated as I am if it weren't for my consistent weekly therapy calls, right? Like if someone like that can have that level of humility and really recognize the power of therapy, my question in this whole episode is, where are we not recognizing as an individual or as a collective society the holistic collective power of therapy, and more importantly, consistent therapy? More often than not, B, you and I, we found that, you know, in this world of therapy and coaching and trying to help people better themselves and trying to help them not just like grow and achieve and all this stuff, but really like even ground themselves and self-regulate. It is hard to be consistent. It is hard to show up to the plate, for lack of better words, when it comes to therapy and calls that help you get into the depths of your emotions, your feelings, et cetera, et cetera. But what happens if you stay? What happens if you're consistent? What happens if you have a sacred practice, a sacred routine with someone that you know can help you? It's endless. The possibilities are absolutely endless. So, yeah, I kind of want to get into that dialogue. And as listeners, right, we're all kind of thinking, okay, so how does this pertain to me? I'm not an Olympic athlete. I'm not this. I'm not that. You know, I've heard therapy and now it's starting to become cool and all this stuff. And right, like the people that are succeeding are really giving the credit to those moments. But like, how do we start as a collective society really integrating this notion of consistent therapy, consistent practice on our mental health, on our well-being, on our psychosocial and spiritual practices? That's the dialogue I want to have.
I think people might hear an episode like this and have two perspectives. Number one, I'm not striving for things the way that Simone Biles is, so why do I need therapy? Yeah, it makes sense. She's struggling. She's trying to go for an Olympic medal. Of course, she would take therapy. I'm not that, though, so I don't need it. I think there might be the other end of the coin, too, where it's like, well, I'm not as strong as her. I could never do that. I'm not capable enough. She's one of the most winningest athletes to ever exist. If she can do that, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
These are some of the objections that you and I get daily when we're connecting with people, when we're talking to the community, when we're just having interactions with clients or anybody. It's these really deep rooted fears that I can't do it, that either I don't need to do it because my life is fine, or I can't do it. I'm not competent. I'm not capable. It's not for me. And I think the documentary like that really emphasizes how everybody needs it. We're all struggling. We all have things that we're experiencing, whether it's trying to be an Olympic athlete or whether it's trying to get through school. Maybe that's your arena. You don't need to be an Olympic gold athlete to have your mental health matter. Maybe it's being the best parent you can be. Maybe it's just being the best person that you can be. It doesn't even have to be for a specific reason. Like the clients that you and I get that really, really succeed, it's not because of their external accolades. It's not because of these external things that are like, I need to do this and da-da-da. It's like, it's nothing like that. It's this inner, it becomes this inner knowing of like, I'm a human being and my life matters too. And the humility to ask for help. I mean, imagine what would have happened to her if she didn't ask for help. Like, she was sexually assaulted. That's what resulted in her mental health being so messed up. That's what like the second portion of the documentary went into. It's how the doctor for the team had been sexually assaulting them for years. And nobody spoke up about it until she finally said something. And then all of them came out and were like, yep, me too. Yep, me too. Yep, me too. What would have happened if she didn't have the courage to say, this happened to me? Would she have been able to succeed? Would she have been able to continue? I highly doubt it. Something like that might not have happened to you, but you have challenges in your life too, and you're a person. It matters. Because you are a person on this earth, it matters. It matters that you're suffering. It matters that you're struggling. It matters that your life isn't the way you want it to be, even if you're not suffering and struggling. If your life is not where you want it to be, that matters. And working with a therapist, a good one, can help you get there. Like, the only reason my life is the way that it is today is because I've had people that I've worked with for years. I've had therapists and coaches and mentors and really good friends like Emilia who have helped me to be able to work through the things within me and challenge myself and expand and get to this place. If you want a better quality life, you have to have the courage and the vulnerability and the humility to say, I need help. But we don't want to do that. And it's like, well, if you had cancer, you wouldn't say, I'm going to come up with a treatment all on my own to cure it.
Right.
So why is this different? You'd look at someone and you'd think, are you nuts?
Yeah.
If someone's like, yeah, I came up with my own chemotherapy treatment, you'd be like,
Right.
good luck with that one. But we don't think that when it comes to mental health, because there's this assumption that there's something wrong with me if I need help.
Yeah.
What if the reframe is, nobody taught me?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody taught me. And maybe this is the opportunity that I can have to learn.
Yeah.
That's what she did.
That is what she did. And had it not for, you know, like everyone jokes around having skeletons in their closets, right? But I really don't think that we understand yet as a collective society at like a baseline level to the extent what I mean by that, the extent that we as a collective society understand you know, how important food is for us, or the ABCs, right? How much the skeletons in our closet, for lack of better words, our mental health, our mental struggles, our mental, emotional, social, spiritual, psychological struggles really do impact us far more than we can ever comprehend. And if you're keeping, you know, skeletons in your closet, aka what happened to you, traumas that you're concerned talking about, things that you have shame around or that you've been told to feel shameful for, right? I just had a conversation with a client yesterday who she's been carrying a shame burden, a micro T trauma that she's experienced around domestic violence that she was so afraid to tell anyone about because of how they might like think about her or what they might think. And that level of shame silences us. And Simone Biles' swearing by therapy, right, that helps us all have the courage to really recognize that the skeletons in her closet, for lack of better words, what had happened to her did not define her. It made her who she is. And because of the way in which she embraced the struggle of that, and she said, I'm just a person too, right? And so all of us, I do think that I know that we have the power. If you have the power to click on this episode, you have the power within your control to get connected to someone who cares about your struggles, get connected to a therapist, a coach that understands what it's like to go through a struggle and not be pathologized. And I deeply, deeply know that your willingness to do that in a consistent format, in a consistent routine, in a consistent ritual, talking to someone that can really help support you through whatever the struggle is that you're going through and beyond. I know the data shows too that your health and wellness is only going to get better. It's only going to get better, which what does that mean, right? That means it's going to get better for you, your family, if you have children, your children, you know, anyone that you get around. And so it's just more inspiration for all of us to really see how there is so much more power in therapy. And therapy at the root is a wound that's healing, right? A flesh that is healing. And so we all have wounds, and that's a normal part of the human experience. So if we can normalize that suffering and normalize getting help and support for that suffering, it's not a weakness. It is one of the biggest strengths that I find that human beings have.
It doesn't take strength to hide issues. It takes strength to say, I'm struggling and I need help.
Beautifully said.
What is your episode suggestion?
309 Motivation Monday. Why it's okay to ask for help. Kind of in line.
370. Yeah, right. 375. How to stop fearing feedback. Therapy's freaking brutal. If you're doing good therapy, it should suck. Like real hard.
It's like rolling out your legs. It's like,
oh my God.
After a strong workout or brutal yoga pose.
And it could be the best decision you ever make for your life and for your future. So Emilia and I swear by it. We both do it. We obviously work with people as therapists and coaches and clinicians. So if you are looking for a really incredible therapy experience or coaching experience, please reach out. Emilia and I are both still taking new clients. Evolve Therapy is going to be rolling out very shortly. a lot of things coming down the pipeline for Evolve, and amazing opportunities for all of you watching and listening. So be on the lookout for all of that. Please send us a DM, reach out, and we'll see you all soon. Bye, everybody.
Right on.